The first time someone tried to steal my land, they brought muffins. Yeah, blueberry. Homemade. Still warm. That's how it started, not with barbed wire or lawsuits or sheriff's deputies, but with a woman in heels crunching across my gravel driveway like she owned the place. Let me back up a sec. 3 years ago, I bought 8 acres outside a little town in western North Carolina because I was done with apartment walls thin as tissue paper, done with parking lot politics, done with the guy who treated revving his truck at 6 a.m. like it was a patriotic duty. I wanted quiet. Not suburban quiet. I mean real quiet. Wind through pine needles, boots on gravel, a gate creaking slow like it's thinking about something. The farmhouse wasn't pretty. It leaned a little. The porch sagged like it had stories. But it sat on open pasture with a cattle gate at the road and a tree line in the back that swallowed sunset whole. I paid cash, years of saving, no debt, signed the papers and drove out there in a U-Haul feeling like I'd finally chosen myself for once. For 2 weeks it was perfect. Then I met Marlene. She introduced herself like she was cutting a ribbon. Perfect hair, sunglasses too big for her face, clipboard tucked under her arm like it was designer. "I'm Marlene," she said, hand out, grip firm enough to assert dominance at a dog park. "President of the Cedar Ridge Neighborhood Association." Now technically it wasn't an HOA, not on paper. But you know how that goes. Cedar Ridge sat about half a mile down the road, beige houses lined up like they'd been printed from a template, lawns manicured so evenly they looked fake. My farm wasn't part of it. My deed was clean. My survey filed. My realtor had said it twice, slow and clear: "You are not in the association." I didn't know that sentence would become my yearly mantra. Marlene glanced at my steel gate, rusted, padlocked, solid. "That's intense," she said. "It's private property," I told her. Her smile thinned just a hair. "Of course. But we all like to maintain standards." Standards. That word hung in the air like humidity. 2 weeks later she came back, muffins in a basket, smile locked and loaded. I was repainting the gate. She stood there watching like she expected applause. "You know," she said, "people from Cedar Ridge love evening walks. This land is so scenic. It's practically a green belt for the neighborhood." I kept brushing paint on metal. "It's not a green belt. It's my farm." That was the first crack. The first time I realized she wasn't being friendly, she was surveying. A few days after that, I heard voices out by the pasture. Not on the road, inside my fence. A couple strolling through like it was a botanical garden. The woman had a tumbler. The man waved like I'd startled him in his own kitchen. "Oh." Marlene said this was community space. Community space. I felt my neck heat up, but I kept my voice steady. "It's private property. You need to leave." They scurried off apologizing, and I stood there staring at my grass like it had betrayed me. The next morning I drove to the Cedar Ridge clubhouse. Fake stone facade, smelled like air freshener and control. Marlene met me with that syrup voice. "Oh, that must be a misunderstanding. They used your name. People exaggerate." Then she leaned back, casual as a cat. "If you joined the association, these little miscommunications wouldn't happen." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't about walking. This was about ownership. She wanted my land under her umbrella, even if she had to pretend the umbrella was bigger than it was. So I got serious. Cameras went up. Motion lights along the drive. Big, unapologetic "No trespassing" signs. I reread my survey like scripture. A few nights later my phone buzzed. There she was, Marlene, at my gate at 11:47 p.m., measuring it with a tape measure. Filming. Taking pictures like she was prepping a listing. That old familiar feeling crept in, the one from childhood, when teachers assumed I wouldn't push back, when bosses piled on because I was easygoing. I moved out here to escape that dynamic, and somehow she dragged it to my driveway. A week later a letter arrived, plain envelope, typed name. "We have observed your property does not align with Cedar Ridge standards." I laughed. Not amused, bitter. Inside was a petition, neighbors requesting limited community access for recreational wellness. Wellness. Like my pasture was a yoga studio. I drove straight to her house. She opened the door smiling. "Explain," I said, holding the letter. "It's just interest," she shrugged. "Community culture. Sharing." "No, that's all I said." For the first time, her smile dropped. Don't be surprised when the community responds accordingly. That line wasn't neighborly. It was a threat. The next week felt like slow sabotage. Trash dumped near my fence. Tire tracks in soft soil. My tomato plant stomped flat, Not deer, no hoof prints. Boots. Camera angles just happened to miss clear faces. Funny how that works. Then came the official letter, association letterhead this time. Claimed my fence encroached on Cedar Ridge common land. Demanded removal. My hands shook, not because I believed it, but because I recognized escalation. I hired a licensed surveyor. Within days, bright flags marked my true boundary. And then he pointed at something else. A row of decorative shrubs and a small Cedar Ridge scenic overlook sign. On my property. 6 feet over the line. They'd landscaped my land. That's when I hired a real attorney. Not a cousin's buddy. A property lawyer who looked at everything and said, "They're bluffing, but they're dangerous because they believe it." He drafted a cease and desist. Told me to call the association's attorney directly. That phone call cracked it open. The association lawyer sounded confused. "We were under the impression your parcel fell under Cedar Ridge jurisdiction." "Based on what?" Silence. Miss Harlow provided documentation suggesting planned expansion. Planned expansion. Meaning annexation. I pulled public records. There it was, an application filed with the county. Marlene requesting my land be folded into Cedar Ridge boundaries. Claiming it was underutilized and negatively impacting neighborhood values. She attached photos. Photos taken from inside my gate. She listed complaints, some from names I recognized from the muffin petition. County hearing scheduled in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from possibly waking up under someone else's authority. I didn't sleep that night. Then I realized something. She expected me to stay quiet. To handle it privately. To get tired. So I did the opposite. I went loud. I scanned everything, survey maps, camera screenshots, annex documents, letters. I made a timeline. Clean. Factual. Posted it in every local community group. Tagged county officials. Titled it, "Neighborhood President Attempting to Annex My Farm." Chaos followed. Messages poured in. She told us it was already approved. We felt pressured. She said you were uncooperative and unsafe. Then the twist I didn't see coming, Cedar Ridge board members reached out. Turns out Marlene had been operating solo more than they knew. Using association funds for landscaping near my boundary. Framing it as community improvement. A board member named Rick, tired voice, sounded worn thin, told me, "I think she's been planning this for a while." The night before the hearing, my cameras caught her again. Bolt cutters. At my NO trespassing sign. I called the sheriff. Deputies arrived. Watched the footage. Issued her a citation on the spot. She tried to spin it, boundary inspection for safety. The deputy just stared at her like she'd offered him a fake Rolex in a parking lot. The hearing felt cinematic, fluorescent lights buzzing, binders stacked thick enough to stop a bullet. My attorney presented survey data, evidence, trespass documentation. Neighbors spoke, not all, but enough. Some admitted she misled them. Even board members contradicted her. When the county panel asked if she had my consent, she tried to argue consent wasn't necessary for community cohesion. That's when the chair shut her down. Vote was unanimous. Annexation denied. Investigation into misuse of funds opened. She didn't storm out. She just blinked, like gravity had surprised her. Within a month, she resigned. The shrubs vanished. The scenic overlook sign disappeared like it had never existed. And for the first time in months, the air felt still again. But here's the part that lingers. After everything, after the threats, the trespassing, the attempted annexation, whispers started. You went too far. You embarrassed her. You could have handled it quietly. Quietly. That word again. And that's what sticks with me. Why is it that when someone pushes and manipulates and overreaches, people stay silent? But the moment you defend yourself publicly, suddenly you're the problem. So I'm asking you straight. Was I right to go loud? To expose it? To make it impossible for her to rewrite the story? Or should I have kept the peace, even if that meant losing control of my own land? Where do you draw the line between being a good neighbor and being a doormat? Have you ever dealt with someone who mistook your politeness for permission? Tell me, does justice have to be polite, or is that just something bullies hope we believe? Drop your thoughts below. I read them. I want to know where you stand. And if you've got your own story about boundaries, land, family, work, whatever, share it. Because maybe the real lesson here isn't about 8 acres in North Carolina. Maybe it's about what happens when someone finally says no and means it.